about to leave. Already packing, come with me. I'm not.
Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now. I'm so excited for this month's Romancelandia Monthly. So we're going off normal plans for this. Not a ton has happened in December, and I really wanted to offer an introduction to the series of Romancelandia Monthly and what it is and why I've been doing it to people who are new to my channel, because I have grown a lot since last December when this launched. And I don't think, you know, it's necessarily a lot of fun to go back and watch 12 months of these. So instead I thought, let's offer a like Romancelandia start here situation instead of a full update this month. Like I said, I feel like it's been a pretty quiet month. It's actually been surprisingly chill. So let's get to it. I'm gonna have timestamps down below for anything I talk about so you can zip around if you need to. First up, we were gonna do like an exploration of the terms. I've mainly got 3 terms that I use regularly that you may need explanation on. You may not be familiar with what I'm talking about. So I wanna explain to you what they do and who they are. Actually, no, we'll do 4 terms. There's 4 terms. And then I'm gonna just kind of talk about where I get my information from. What are my sources? How am I finding this? In every single video, I link to every single source I have in the description box. It will be the same thing here, y'all. Everything will be linked down below. I will be linking to a bigger summary of events that happened in that description box as well if you want to really deep dive, or you can go watch my 18-minute video about last December. Yeah, I just honestly thank y'all for hanging out and for watching these for the last year. I am so excited. I might just pop a bottle of champagne later or Prosecco to celebrate a little bit, because I think doing a project for a year like this and continuing it and loving it is just, it's a real treat. And I'm just really happy at how well received it's been and how much everybody loves it. This was born, I will say, out of a necessity, because we'll go through it when I talk about the history, but I was covering this on Twitter for a group I'm part of and deeply involved in all of it, and I didn't see anyone talking about it on BookTube really. I found maybe 2 videos. Most of those were on AuthorTube, and I thought, well, the RomanceTube community needs to know what's going on, because like, I personally as a reader want to know when authors are naughty because I don't want to read them at the end of the day. I like to know my money is going to people and to places that are trying to do better and not worse. And that doesn't mean that you have to always, you know, everyone's gonna be perfect, because we're all gonna make mistakes. But we definitely, there are definitely some villains in this story that I'm gonna tell you today. So all right, let's get straight to it. The terms and all that. So first of all, the RWA is the Romance Writers of America group. This is a group where you can join if you're a romance writer, and you pay money every year to be a member, and you go, there's like a big conference, there's an award called the Ritas, and basically people, they, you know, authors join, they use it to network, they use it to find resources. One of the big things RWA has done in the past is pursue publishers who were not paying their authors, which happened back in the day with Alora's Cave, it's called. I was not reading romance when this publisher was a thing, but the current publisher equivalent would be Dream Spinner Press, if you're not aware, is not paying their authors appropriately, and many authors have had to seek legal help or ramifications to that publisher to either get payment and get rights back on their books. It's a whole thing. So that's what the RWA is there for, right? They have a board of president-elect and directors at large, etc., and they help, you know, support other romance writers. It is a group that is supposed to help support other authors. It doesn't really do a lot for us as readers. They do a blogger / library day when they do their conference usually, and they have some panels and stuff that you can go to as a reviewer. You can go to the conference if you want, but there's not like anything for us as like non-writer people. The Ritas were the prestigious awards they gave out every year. They had various judges that may have been romance authors and readers, reviewer peoples judging for them. It would be a pool of people, and well, that's going to tie into our story here. And then now we have the Vivians, which is the new award that they just launched this year. They have selected a whole pool of people in November that are going to be judging, and we'll know more when we get our announcement on what books got picked, who submitted, who didn't. That's the other problem. All right. The last term I have for you is Romance Sparks Joy. You've heard me mention them before, I'm sure, many times if you're not new to my channel. That is a group called Romance Sparks Joy. They were born out of, like, a year ago in March-ish. They were born because Courtney Milan tweeted about how it's really messed up that last year was the first year we had people of color nominated to the Ritas. There were 3 of them. There were 2 black women and one Indian American woman. Or no, first black people to be nominated. It's wild, which is really, really fucked up if you think about it, because Ms. Bev has been writing for a long time and there are a lot of other authors of color that have been writing romance for a long time. So anyways, she tweeted out about it and said, what if we did a buddy read, like a group read, a book club for the 3 books by people of color that were nominated this year. And I and a whole bunch of other people volunteered to join them and to help. So I did, and I am one of the admins now for the group. We still run monthly book clubs on Discord, and we tweet a lot about romance happenings, book sales for things and all that stuff. We also do a weekly update on Sundays when there's enough news to cover what is going on in Romancelandia. Good news, bad news, etc. That right there, that weekly update, is why I know so much. I help put it together. We rotate through our different admins to post them. And I am obviously one of the admins. I gather links as I find them and share them into our group to post that week. Other people do as well. That is where I go generally at the end of each month to compile what I think is relevant to share here on Romancelandia monthly. I also use just Twitter in general. I follow a lot of people. I retweet these things a lot of times before the update, honestly, and will comment on them. And I usually grab those links and I just keep a doc. I have a running doc with updates of things that are happening in Romancelandia when I find them. So, you know, if I see something that I think needs to be addressed, into my list it goes. And that's really it. Like, my sources aren't like necessarily specific people always. It's more just that I've kind of got a smattering of a following on Twitter, like people that I'm following on there that are talking about these things and talking about the issues. So I'm able to quickly get info. I also sometimes get tagged by people. I know Bethany over at Beautifully Bookish Bethany is a star. She tags me and stuff. She's like, hey, you might want this. And I'm like, yes, thank you. So I also pick things up that way. But yeah, that's what that is. And then yeah, Romance Sparks Joy, if you're interested, I will link to our Discord for the book club down there. We usually get authors in the Discord and they come talk with us about their book, which is always really fun at the end of the month. And the whole mission of Romance Sparks Joy is to read underrepresented authors. So that includes any authors of color, LGBTQ, non-Christian religious authors, and disability, mental health, all those things we consider underrepresented. So basically, yeah, it's really fun. I really love the book club. I love what we've been doing as a group. It's a good mission, if that makes sense. So yeah, if you want to join us, I will link that down below. If you don't, no worries. But now you know. Okay, terms are done. Let us go back in history to a year ago. Last December, literally 2 days before Christmas, the internet of Romancelandia exploded. I need to give you some context though, because 4 months or so before that, we had some interactions on Twitter that led to what happened in December. First of all, you need to meet Sue Grimshaw, a former Borders book buyer who then went to work at Marie Force's Publishing and lost her job there due to her previous job's shady practices, which were basically being racist. Then Courtney Milan was talking about a book published by a group called Glenfinnan where Sue Grimshaw worked as well as an editor or something. And this book was published in the 90s and she's like, sure, whatever, you know, I get it, it's a 90s book. But then found out it was reissued in 2014 and nothing of the racism in the book was fixed. So that's not great. So Courtney tweets about that. And you need to know that Glenfinnan and Sue Grimshaw are gonna come up again in a minute. Because now we fast forward again to December. On December 23rd, Alyssa Cole tweeted out about Courtney Milan and what happened. Alyssa Cole tweets about the complaint from RWA about Courtney and how they're censoring her because of 2 complaints from Sue Grimshaw and the Glenfinnan Publishing Group. One of those complaints literally called Courtney a neo-Nazi. If you didn't know, Courtney Milan is a woman of color. And like, that's just weird. You don't do that. So quickly, very quickly, because Alyssa Cole tweeted this, a firestorm happened on Twitter. It was wild. Things were just coming out, y'all. Like, it was wild. So basically, the social media started hashtag I stand with Courtney. Romance Sparks Joy quickly hopped in and we started keeping a moment on Twitter where we tracked things. I was spending, I don't know how much time, that 2 weeks-ish that this was all going on my computer, grabbing links and compiling them. It was a lot, like a lot. It was, I don't even know how I survived it. It was so much. It felt really important though, right? So it felt really, really important that we chronicled these events and that we logged tweets about important things and that there was a resource repository of things that happened from this, because this is not a good thing. This is not a good look. Then details emerged around how this ethics complaint was handled and the shady intake of the ethics complaints in general. Like, usually they just got ignored. And then somehow, for whatever reason, this one got brought up to a secret group to make a judgment on the ethics complaint, which involved like banning Courtney from RWA forever. It was literally outside anything else they'd ever done before. They'd never done this. Like, it had never been brought to a board meeting situation. So the board president-elect was Damon Suede. You need to know that now because it's gonna come up in a minute some more. There were a lot of meetings happening, like emergency meetings on like Christmas Eve. People were definitely trying to cover their asses. People as in Damon was trying to cover his ass probably. A whole bunch of the board stepped down, which were a lot of Black women and women of color that were on that board, and it's just very disappointing. Things were starting to come out about Damon Suede, the current president-elect, including why the RWA was not addressing the Dream Spinner Press non-payment situation, because Damon is published through Dream Spinner and was still getting his payment. There's a petition that occurs to recall Suede. He argues that he replaces the people that stepped down with his inner circle. Letters are sent to the RWA from readers. Romance Sparks Joy particularly sent a reader letter, and I know some authors sent an author letter. So then, for next year's Ritas, the authors all pulled their books. So when this is happening, we are in the middle of Rita judging, and Rita award training had just happened for the new judges around diversity, education, and inclusion. So things were coming out about that being shit, like that you could just leave your computer on and walk away and nobody would know that you didn't take the training. So the steps to prevent the racism that happened in the previous year's Ritas were just being ignored because they weren't implemented properly. And if you're curious about that year's Ritas, Jen Reads Romance read the 2019 Rita book nominations and chronicled them on a Twitter called Jen Reads Ritas. And it was kind of horrifying, the books that made it through. So by the end of this, the board has stepped down. We now today have a new board. They have canceled the Ritas. They canceled the Ritas before this because all the authors, like so many authors, pulled their books. They said, we're not doing this. I don't want anything to do with it. You know, and I'm honestly, the firestorm in which Romancelandia comes for people blows my mind continually. I should know by now. You don't fuck with us. Because there is a side, there are two sides of Romancelandia. The side of us that give a fuck and the side that doesn't do shit. The side that gives a fuck, do not fuck with. Do not poke the bear. It is bad news. So at the end of this, Damon Suede of course steps down, and so does the rest of the board pretty much, and there's a new election, and now we have a whole new board happening, and it's a whole thing. A lot unfolded in that 2 weeks and then in the months following while we had the transitions. But we are, it seems, currently in a better place today than we were last year. We'll see what happens. Obviously, we've got to see what happens with how that is handled. There's a lot of lack of faith from people and authors, rightfully so, around the RWA still. I definitely have seen that, but you know, you get burned enough times, you're not going to keep coming back asking to get burned again. Especially the authors of color who have left, because the whole situation is just really bad, y'all. So the RWA did have an ethics investigation by like Pillsbury something or other, and some things were found. I don't remember the exact details. I don't think it was super relevant, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's the history of where this was born from. I wanted to make sure people on BookTube knew and people on BookTube were aware, because I think that as a community, we often say we want to do things to read diversely and to expand our knowledge and breadth. And I thought that, you know, nobody on RomanceTube section is really talking about these things. So I felt confident in my ability to at least somewhat discuss them. Obviously, I can't be an authority figure on things, on some of this stuff, because I'm not a person of color, but I would rather me be the one having people be shitty in my comments than someone of color have shit in their comments because they're standing up against racism. It's literally the least I can do. So that's the history of Romancelandia Monthly in some terms. If you have any specific questions for me about Romancelandia Monthly, drop them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them for you, clarify anything that needs clarification. I tried to cover everything. I think I got it all. If I didn't, like I said, drop it in the comments. I'm honest. DM me on Instagram or anywhere and I can explain anything you need. I really don't mind. That is it for this month's update. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for the last year with these, and I hope to see you in the new year for January's update. And drop a heart emoji in the comments if you made it this far. You will find links once again to everything in this video, like for full like stories on this, in the description box. You will find links to all of my social medias in the description box, and links to the romance YouTuber Discord where you can come hang out with me, a bunch of other romance tubers, and other viewers of RomanceTube to chat about romance. Bye, y'all.
Really asking, we'll get away to a place where we don't know.